What's up, Conroe? Welcome to a brand new edition of Nerd Thug Sports right here on 104.5, 106.1, the sister stations. And we're streaming worldwide at irlonestar.com. This is Corey DLG, and with me as usual is... it is the little brother, Nico.
Hey, guys.
What's going on, man? How are you?
It feels good to be back talking about sports after like a month or something of not being on the show.
You had some downtime.
I mean, it's not like I wasn't working on it.
True.
Except I wasn't.
Behind the scenes.
Just my job, okay?
There you go. What, yeah, so it's been a little while, so we got a lot of different things we can cover. The sports world is just a little topsy-turvy. Tiger Woods. No one's saying the words career ending. Kind of, I think, mainly because it's golf. But...
yeah, like the hardest sport in the world.
Right. He was in a single car accident and potentially ended his career.
Which, I mean, like, it could have been worse. Like, at least he's had a long and prolific career at this point. Like, if he stopped playing golf, no one would be like, man, he had so much potential.
Yeah, I'm kind of
like he's already kind of done everything there is to do in golf, right?
Well, except be like the most winningest guy.
But he is, isn't he? I thought he already had like the longest streak for like a few years back.
So, yes and no. There's obviously the four main tournaments are called the majors.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trailing Phil Nicklaus by like I think 9 or 8 majors. So there's somebody who's won more majors than him. And that's the big difference. Now he was on pace to catch him in like a 3-year span, and it's just all fallen apart. Aside from that, he is the most dominant, winningest, impressive golfer.
I mean, he's the only one I know by name, so
true.
If that says anything.
He is the reason Nike is in golf. He famously, they essentially at one press conference announced that they were getting into golf attire, golf equipment, all of that when they announced they had signed Tiger Woods. And I remember at the time there were a bunch of people worried that like, oh, Tiger's changing gear like in the middle of his career. Like what will this do to him? It turned out okay.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
And basically the deal was, if I remember correctly, essentially he could use any club he actually wanted. And they were basically, he had his own like group of Nike club makers waiting to like receive instruction from him at any given moment. Essentially, like he would come off a driving range and be like, yeah, this needs to be a little bit weightier or whatever the situation. And they would put together a new club for him right there on the spot, basically.
That's crazy.
So there's sort of two minds of Tiger Woods. I'm a little bit more. Obviously, there's this level of greatness that is unparalleled, and I think he gets, much like the Jordan Gatorade deal and the Jordan Nike deal, where like he gets a piece of it forever. Mm-hmm. I think Tiger Woods receives a percentage of Nike golf, like their apparel sales and club sales and things of that nature. But I don't know. Yes, the most dominant golfer that we've seen in our era. but maybe not the best golfer ever. And it's sort of a weird thing because he was so close, and then his entire body just quit.
Well, not really, because I mean, like, well, are you talking about a few years ago, or are you talking about this?
I'm talking about a few years ago.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in the pursuit of greatness, and then I think Tiger Woods is 14, and Phil Nicklaus has like 19 or 20 majors. Okay, and man, it seems like that's not that many to Tiger Woods. That's odd. Are you in a position where you can look it up?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah, how many majors has Tiger Woods won? And then find out how many Phil Nicklaus has. But essentially, like, Tiger Woods was cruising to catch him. Tiger Woods, his percentage of like tournaments made, because there's like a cut, right? Like, for most tournaments, you show up Wednesday, Thursday, you play for 2 days, and then they cut down to like 90 players.
Yep.
Like, Tiger Woods, his cut rate was something like.
Oh my god, my dog! What is that?
I know, right? He hadn't missed a cut in something like 5 years.
Okay, so Tiger Woods has 12, and Jack Nicklaus has 15.
Oh, okay. So he's closed the gap since then. Okay, good. So at one point they were like, oh yeah, he'll definitely catch him. It's just a matter of when. And he was like 6 or 7 off. Okay, so 3 away, he'll probably still never catch him.
Probably not.
And it's sort of this crazy thing where it's really just he was on pace in such a way. I mean, his tournament make rate was like 100% for, I think it was some weird like 6-year period of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just from the second his wife basically found out that he cheated on her, his career's never been the same.
I mean, yeah, he had such a long time of just being like apologizing and then like being just nowhere and not doing anything.
Well, and he took so long like off too to get it all right, and then he came back and he was just such a mess. Like, just physically he was such a mess. And then he wins that one tournament on a broken leg, and essentially that was everything. That was it. I mean, when he did that, first of all, like, internally, what an amazing moment. But reality-wise, like, that's it. It destroyed just everything. It took everything for him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, he basically is starting over. And I think he's had something like 20-plus surgeries at this point. Most of which on his back or his leg. There's some physical things about Tiger Woods that are kind of amazing, but also sort of disturbing. He was creating so much power and torque on his drives that he basically destroyed his lead leg. I think even when he broke it, it was something as simple as swinging a club that broke it. It wasn't any sort of weird. He didn't like stumble down some stairs or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden he had to like start over from scratch and rebuild how to drive. Essentially, he was driving so hard that his body wore down.
Physically couldn't keep up anymore.
Yeah, and then they were like, okay, well, he needs to relearn how to drive at like 70%, which is a weird thing to me. Like the idea that he was driving so hard that his body literally just quit on him. And so now here he is, 3 majors away, 48, 49 years old, somewhere right around there. And I don't know that he has the, like, he went on such a prolific downturn in his career that he lost all of his automatic invitations to all the major tournaments. He now has to like earn and play his way in, and it's super sporadic now. Like, just we're gonna catch glimpses of Tiger Woods over the next few years, but we're never gonna see a run like Tiger Woods had to essentially start his career.
So what you're telling me is this is Tiger Woods 2.
Almost like
basically
Tiger Woods 3 at this point.
No, I guess that'd be more accurate. Tiger Woods 3. Is it better than 2? Is it worse? Is it what the series needed? Who knows?
Yeah, I really can't tell. I was reading about the injuries, trying to kind of tea leaf my way through them from what I know, from things that have happened to me, my own personal experience. They mentioned some fractures to the fibia, which means he is a solid 4 months non-weight bearing on that leg.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever leg that is. I should say 3 months. I was 3 months non-weight bearing. Like, that was just automatic with the fractured fibia. Also, these are open fractures, which means bone exposed to air. So,
which is awful.
Yeah. When the insides are outside, it's never good.
It's not the play.
No, it's definitely not the play. When the insides are on the outside, you may have done something wrong. Yeah, this is definitely the third, maybe even fourth chapter in the story of Tiger Woods, and it's just, for such a great beginning, the entire second and third act have been so heartbreaking.
I mean, yeah. He's really, come back from, like, I feel like when he finally, like, hit his stride again, it's like, just as when you were on the up and up, it, like, all falls apart yet again, but for a completely different reason.
Right, exactly. And this time it's well, every time it's been self-made.
Yeah, he's definitely not one of the people where it's like, oh no, how tragic it happened to him. It was like, it's like, no, yeah, but it was probably his fault.
Yeah, and a lot of it has been very, I don't really know the right word, like unsympathetic, maybe?
Well, yeah, definitely the first time was definitely like, oh man, you're a real trash person. Literally, I remember that was such a story when I was a kid.
I think it wound up being something like 19 women. All kinds of stuff about his personal life came out.
Yeah, hard to feel bad for him.
And I'm going to say this, and I don't know this with any real certainty, but the wife was first of all, the wife was a supermodel, an amazing looking supermodel, and like one of them was like a Denny's, a diner waitress. Like, I don't know, but beyond that, the woman is such a. She seemed so open. Put it this, okay, let's put this. The story was, for their honeymoon, she brought her twin sister with them. And they basically spent like a week out on a yacht out in the ocean. I'm not saying, but there's definitely some inferences to that, isn't there?
I mean, yeah.
For our honeymoon, there's 2 of me. Here you go, baby. Like.
Right, but also, at least it's the same looking person.
Well,
like,
I mean,
it's not.
I'm of 2 minds of that. If I'm stepping out, maybe I want something totally different. Or maybe, yeah, 2 of the same is. Listen, twins is. I know that they're sisters, and therefore that means some things. There is definitely a odd.
Yeah, that's super weird.
Male-minded perspective about twins. I can't deny that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it was okay. So first of all, it's still weird. Like, we got to
super weird.
That's weird.
But also the implication, though, that like for their honeymoon, she brought her sister.
Yeah, and that definitely feels like it's not like he could have asked. I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, maybe it happened. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't. The implication is definitely out there that maybe it happened.
And maybe it didn't, and we're just being weird about it. Who knows?
I mean, listen, you don't bring an extra person on the trip. You just don't.
Well, what if they just spent the time on the yacht, and then like the sister was like in the city or something?
No, like I think it wasn't like docked somewhere. Like they were like out in the, like it was like an ocean trip.
I don't know. That's a weird thing. I never want to be in the open ocean ever if I'm not going somewhere.
No, I'm with you, but I think it was their way of being isolated for specifically the honeymoon. Now, granted,
yeah, and that's the thing where it's like, and then we never saw them again, kind of
right.
like.
Well, it's not that kind of boat. Like it's still got a yacht crew of like 30 people. Okay.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Your Woods yacht, not a me yacht.
Totally fair. Forgot that's how this works. I'm not rich enough to have servants on a boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are some implications that it maybe would, like it's a little weird. And then he stepped out on a supermodel of all things, and so you know what I mean. Like I don't know, it's just hard to wrap
the whole situation feels off.
Yeah, the whole story just feels hard to wrap my brain around. And then when he comes back, he's terrible. He's not Tiger Woods at all.
Yeah, and he's Woods Tiger. He's
terrible. He is Woods Tiger. And then Woods Tiger spend the next, 3-4 years just peddling away all the goodwill and all the opportunity that Tiger Woods had developed for himself. And Woods Tiger is out there not
doing nothing.
Losing. He's out there losing. Missing cuts, which had never happened in the Tiger Woods era. Not only is he missing cuts, but Tiger Woods eventually points and wins and all that. He falls off from number one in the world, and it trickles away. And he starts losing his. When you win one of these tournaments, essentially, I think the rules are like, when you win it, you're invited back for the next 4 years automatically, kind of a thing. And he had won all of the courses for so many times and for so long that, like, he'd built up a good amount of automatic invites. Well, Woods Tiger basically plays through all of those and doesn't get anywhere. Doesn't add any more to the pot.
He's using all his free Chuck E. Cheese tokens. He's just coming up empty.
Pretty much. Then eventually he has to start playing his way into tournaments, and for a little while, even that is hard for him to do. And then for a little bit, he's kind of back. He starts winning again. I think he even wins 2 majors in the Woods Tiger, if we're calling it that era.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about it on the show. Is how long this been going. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It was like a super mental thing, because it's like now that he was finally back, it's like, and now he's good again.
I think it was Joey who was like, "Yeah, man, he's got it now. And the truth was, like, it was easy once he won again and was winning again. It was easy to believe in him, and then he winds up playing on that fractured leg. He's in the tie for the tournament. The tiebreaker's the Monday. He plays through. He wins. It's just this incredible gutsy performance. And then he's got to go away and physically get better. And it's a long, I think it's something like 18 months before he even swings a golf club again. That's not a good way to stay a professional.
I mean, but it is the athletes, like, unfortunate, like, their body, they have to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, listen, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. And
When it's in motion so much that it has to rest sometimes, it don't come back.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere like that. All right, we went way over on this first segment here, but that's all right. I don't mind. We're going to jump out to a break. When we come back, we got more Nerd Thug Sports coming your way. The Adventure Begins Comics, Games, and More is a wonderful store located right there on 1488 in Conroe that sells comic books, gaming cards, gaming accessories, board games, as well as all kinds of fun, nerd-assorted accessories. This is Corey DLG of Nerd Thug Radio, just reminding you that if you're interested, and if you're bored, if you got some free time, if you wanted to go hang out at an interesting or fun place, The Adventure Begins should be an option you consider. Everything from D&D Adventurers League to miniature painting to even competitive card play and even competitive gaming events. All those things occur at The Adventure Begins Comics, Games, and More. Interested parties should absolutely check out the Facebook page for more information. With 2 locations, one on Walden Road and one in Oak Ridge inside of Space Cadets Gaming, Marini's Pizza has handcrafted pizza and where all the sauces are made fresh, and they even include a gluten-free option for those who want it. Interested parties should absolutely check out the Marini's Pizza Facebook page.
This is Rudy Tomjanovich, and welcome to Nerd Thug Radio.
Welcome back, Conroe, to Nerd Thug Sports, right here on 104.5, 106.1, the sister stations, and streaming worldwide at irlonestar.com. I just want to remind everybody to check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/NerdThugRadio. As always, that's where the magic is happening. And before we get further into anything, I do want to have Nico talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, The Adventure Begins, Comics, Games, and More.
Yes, The Adventure Begins, Comics, Games, and More, a fantastic store with wonderful staff. They are open and at full operating hours. If you want to come inside, you are going to have to be wearing a mask. They do have some events running back up. So later this week, Friday, February 26th at 6 p.m. is the Team Yankee and Flames of War casual meetup. So that's a tabletop miniature game. Saturday, February 27th at 2 p.m. is the Pokemon casual meetup. And the same day, the 27th at 6 p.m. is Hammer Time. There's Warhammer and tabletop Warhammer meetups are back and in full swing. The month of February is already over, man. It's time flies. Yeah, come down to The Adventure Begins. Join us and have some good old time. This past week we had our Digimon tournament. We had a pretty good turnout. It was really fun. So yeah, come on down to The Adventure Begins, Comics, Games, and More. Get your nerd on. Pick up your books, your anime stuff, your card game, board game. They got all kinds of stuff there.
That's right. Clean, family-friendly, well-lit, great staff. It's just an awesome place to go and hang out. Great people. I get my books there. They keep them on hold for me. I get my discount. You should be doing the same thing. Build up your loyalty points right there with The Adventure Begins, Comics, Games, and More. Yeah, so the Digimon thing was going on, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was weird. We had 2 people show up, sign up, and pay for the tournament, and then they just left and never came back.
Okay, all right. But they got the cards though, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, they paid for entry, but they didn't even play in the game. It's like, why'd you even do that?
Yeah, it's a little weird. That was a little odd. Okay, well, let's get into it. We haven't been covering this because we were off, and Austin and I just had different schedules. But so we need to get into this here. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston.
Oh no.
At this point, he's basically said he's prepared to sit out a year. I don't really believe that. He's under contract, so there's almost no leverage for him to be able to do that. We'll get into that here in a little bit more in a second. But
that's a weird position to take.
Well, yeah, it really is. And he's got a no trade clause. So he's kind of in the driver's seat of if we're going to trade him, he has a little bit of control about where he winds up going. And so he recently gave the list of where he's willing to go, and it's the Jets, the Dolphins. I think there was a third team. I don't remember which it is because it doesn't really. For the Texans, it's really either the Jets or the Dolphins. And the reason being, the Jets have tons of draft capital, and tons of good young players.
Mm-hmm.
And the Dolphins have a good young quarterback in I'm blanking on how to say his last name now, from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Or they also have a lot of draft capital and young players as well. So the idea is if we were to do the deal with the Jets, we would take 2 or 3 good young defensive players plus draft picks. Or if we were to do it with the Dolphins, we would take their quarterback, 1 or 2 defensive players, and draft picks. And so the Texans, potentially those are the 2 teams the Texans could do a deal with. But they're still realistically in control of this situation. Deshaun Watson is starting to lose the PR battle, and I think this is one of those things that I don't know that it's going to work. I think he played his hand poorly.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a really easy way to ask your way out of town here in Houston, where if he'd have, after J.J. Watt makes his video where he says, hey, I asked for my release and they granted it. I love you, Houston. I'm heading out. Peace. And he's kind of shopping destinations. We might get to that today. I hope we do. We'll see if we have time. For Deshaun Watson, what he should have done in that instant is followed up with his own video and been like, hey, or the next day maybe, hey, it's Deshaun Watson. I love you guys. I appreciate being here. But there's so many issues with this franchise behind the scenes that make winning so hard. The cupboard is bare. But, there's no good way for him to say what he needs to say in order to get out of town. Because basically he has to say there's no chance of winning, which means he's calling his teammates losers.
Right. Because at least J.J. Watt, he's,
J.J. has earned the right to play for a team playing for a title this year.
Right. He's been incredible, and he's been, again, we always say, the ultimate Houstonian. He's done so much for the city anyways.
Right.
We can't be mad at him.
Right. No.
We literally fired what's his name because he got mad at JJ.
Right. Yeah. The straw that broke Bill O'Brien's career was yelling at J.J. Watt. And that's the truth. J.J. Watt built up all of this goodwill for this one move. Essentially, if you're going to be cynical about it and play the PR game, J.J. Watt knew at some point he probably was going to have to ask out of town or be cut. And everything he's done, PR-wise, has been very smooth, very well done, very calculated, very intelligent. He doesn't get himself into the trouble. Most NFL players have a moment at some point, usually somewhere between year 1 and year 3, where they just screw up. They just make a dumb mistake, and he never had that.
Yeah, he was just being awesome, being good, and then, as he slowed down, he started being, more involved in the community.
Well, as his legend grew also. Not a lot of defensive players get the luxury of playing through a 6-year second contract in the way that he did. He was on the last year, I think he was on the very last year, was slated to make something along the lines of 20 or 24. And him asking for his release, it puts a lot of it makes him seem like the good guy. When in reality, the conversation was more than likely the Texans were going to try and trade him. But the exact opposite of that is what Deshaun Watson is doing. Where he's using the agent as the mouthpiece, Which, listen, that's what you pay an agent for. But this is one of those things you have to hear from the quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's an easy way and a hard way to say everything.
Yeah, and he's saying everything kind of the drawn out way. Like,
right. Like,
basically, what has to happen is a Deshaun Watson press conference where he just sits down and he fields all the questions.
Right, but even even like you were saying before, like, if he wanted to leave, he could have just, talked about the organization and how there was like a lack of leadership or direction, or like there's obvious flaws. Like normal people that aren't involved could tell, like, this organization is kind of all over the place, having been literally torn apart.
Right.
Like, okay, we haven't had a GM in like a million years, and we just got a new one. Didn't have a head coach. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's been a tumultuous year and a half.
Right. So it would have been very easy to be like, I've enjoyed my time here. I've put a lot of effort in, but honestly, there's been a severe lack of leadership and direction. And as a young quarterback who wants to spend his career, making positive strides, I think looking elsewhere would be a better position. Like anything like that.
Yeah, I'm out of room to grow here. It's obvious that we're stuck in some quicksand that we can't get ourselves out of.
Right, and I think the organization would appreciate what they could get for me, and I think trading would be a good option, like something like that. I don't know. I'm not a PR person, but I think that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it at least tells everybody why you want to leave, who you're blaming, what the situation is. At this point, where we're at, I don't think he's, he hasn't put a name to any of it. He's just like, no, I just want out. It doesn't work that way. He signed the $150 million extension. And when he was kind of confronted about that, or the agent was, essentially the conversation was, well, he felt like he had to, because he didn't want to wind up ultimately in a Dak Prescott situation.
Which, again, is fair, but it also comes down to, like, you got to make a name for yourself.
Actually, see, to me, I actually think it's not fair. Because, listen, the deal with Dak is Dak has been negotiating this whole time, but fighting on final numbers. He's got a number he wants to get. But more importantly, you don't sign the extension if you don't want to be here.
Right. That you have the power to say no.
Right. Now, granted, maybe we could have franchised him twice. So I think there was 2 years left on the rookie deal because he had the 5-year option because he was a first-round pick. And essentially, with the two, it would have been a long 3 years before he could have left, but he could have left.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he chose to sign the $150 million contract extension with the no-trade clause, and then 1 season later is saying he wants out.
Right.
And to me, that's the problem. Now, let's get into the mechanics of, let's say he actually does want to sit out. Because he's currently under contract, the trick a lot of players do that does or did work, and I think under the new CBA it no longer works, was they wouldn't sign the franchise tag until the last week of training camp or whatever. So they wouldn't have to show up for mini camps. They wouldn't have to show up for OTAs. They wouldn't have to show up for training camp. And the team couldn't find them for that because they weren't under contract at the time. So technically they're not an employee of the team. But these are high enough quality caliber players that you don't rescind the franchise tag, because if you do, they can just sign anywhere and someone else will take your guy. So you leave the franchise tag on him. He shows up right at the end of training camp and all that. He gets in about a week of work, 2 weeks of work, knocks the rust off, and then comes in and plays that whole year under the guaranteed franchise tag. That's how most of these guys dodge the fines. Or there's occasionally where someone is under contract and they're building up the fines while they're sitting out, with the expectation that the team is going to just knock those fines off when they settle up on the new deal. Deshaun Watson has none of that leverage, though. The expectation isn't that Deshaun Watson is going to get a new deal. He wants to be traded out of town. So the idea that he's going to sit out and force that trade, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't boost his, like, oh, look, you want to trade for me? I completely, disrespected my organization and didn't try and play for you.
Yeah, it definitely paints him in a bad light. More than you're right about that. Although I don't think anyone would care. I think if you called about Deshaun Watson, every team would take the call. But the bigger issue is that he doesn't have the ability to sit out. He would accrue something along the lines of like $5 million in fines.
Yeah, it hurt him significantly.
Yeah. His new deal doesn't kick in until the end of this year. So this isn't the big – I think next year he'll earn something like $21 million or something like that under the cap. This year he's earning something like $7 or $8. So the $5 million hit's a big hit. He just doesn't have the leverage to force it yet. And I think that's the bigger problem. A player in year 5 can't make a team trade him. Not after he signed a 4-year extension. It's just not. Yeah, he's overplayed his hand. I feel like
it's not the move. It sounds like it sounds like he got really bad advice and he took it and he's like, oh, that was not the move.
Yeah, that's pretty close to how it feels. It does feel like he maybe is.
It certainly feels like he was like, you take the extension because it's a lot of money. And it was like, oh, but I really don't want to be here. It's like, yeah, but where are you else are you going to get this deal? And it's like, oh, I guess.
Well, and that is the truth. I do think that that's what happened. I think there was no way there's no way Houston's letting him go. I just don't see it. So I still think he shows. I think at the end of the day, he'll be a Texan, no matter how crazy and awkward it becomes. I think at the end of the day, he will wind up being a Texan.
Yeah, it'll definitely be reluctantly, though.
Well, still, the jersey wears just the same.
Yep.
Before we jump out to a break, let me tell you guys about our friends Marini's Pizza. There's 2 locations, one in Walden in Conroe and one right here in Oak Ridge inside of Space Cadets. The pizza is delicious. It's New York style. So it's a thinner crust with delicious crust on there. They make the dough themselves every day, fresh. It's wonderful ingredients. They're a small business, family-owned, local, and they do their best to participate and buy local and buy from nice gourmet grocer distributors. It's nice quality ingredients. These are great guys. These are great people. Marini's Pizza, right there in Oak Ridge and right there in Walden. Be sure to try them. Check out the Facebook page. They had been shut down due to COVID and then the blizzard. They are back. They are open. They are ready to rock and roll. Normal hours, both locations, which means lunch and dinner in Oak Ridge and dinner up in Walden. So come have some pizza right there. They've got an ongoing special: 2 medium, 2 toppings, garlic knots, and a 2-liter for $23.95. Check that out. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got more Nerd Thug Radio coming, Nerd Thug Sports coming your way. Hey, Conroe, Corey DLG of Nerd Thug Radio. Just wanted to tell you guys about our sponsor, Chicken Cone Food Truck. Rolling around different areas in the Conroe and the Woodlands, Chicken Cone Food Truck is delicious chicken in a freshly made hand-rolled waffle cone. With various sauces, this fork-free experience is something anyone interested in good food should definitely check out. The Chicken Cone truck is parking at various events near you every weekend. For more information, interested parties should check out Nerd Thug Radio's Facebook page for various locations and listings every weekend for the Chicken Cone Cart.
Hey, Conroe, this is Corey DLG of Nerd Thug Radio, hanging out here, just enjoying my quarantine time at home, and I hope everyone else is doing the same, social distancing and minding their manners and listening to the orders while we get all this health crisis straightened out and get this pandemic under control. I hope everyone's doing their part to flatten the curve, but doing their part also means supporting small businesses. Local businesses here in Conroe, restaurants, things of that nature that have been able to stay open, they require the support of their community. So takeout is a good option to do. So reach out to those places, order some takeout food if you can afford it and if it's reasonable. I'm not asking anyone to risk their health, but the community has always relied on itself to support itself. And this is one of those times where, as Conroe, we can stand up together and take care of small businesses and entrepreneurs who have been taking care of us this whole time, helping Montgomery County grow into one of the fastest growing counties in all of America. Thank you very much, and stay safe, and stay tuned for more Nerd Thug Radio.
Hi, this is Kevin Smith, former Dallas Cowboy, Texas A&M Aggie as well, and I want to say what's up to Nerd Thug Radio.
What's up, Conroe? Welcome back to Nerd Thug Sports, right here at 104.5, 106.1, these sister stations, and we're streaming worldwide at IrelandStar.com. Before we get into anything, let me tell you guys about our friends, the Chicken Cone Food Truck, driving around here in the Woodlands Conroe area every weekend. It is delicious finger food lunch or dinner. It's one of the only food trucks I've ever seen that doesn't require utensils at all. It's breaded chicken in a waffle cone. It's delicious. It's awesome. They've got great sauces and different options for you to do to get your food from, or to get your food with, I should say. And it is traveling around the Woodlands Conroe area. Chicken Cone Food Truck. Make sure to check it out. I believe, and my count is all off now, but every other weekend. So this weekend they're supposed to be Sunday on Rayford Road. I believe you would see them Sunday on Rayford Road. So check that out. I'm going to try and get confirmation of that. I think we always keep saying we're going to put it on the Facebook, and the chicken guys never give me back the information. So hopefully we're going to get some information and give it to you guys so you can go hang out with the Chicken Cone Truck this weekend and try some of these delicious finger meals that we're talking about. Okay, so we talked a little bit about J.J. Watt. He's essentially got his pick of the NFL. Every team in the league would love to have him and is making cap room right now just for the opportunity to maybe get him. I saw one where it looked like he might be going to Green Bay, but the truth is Green Bay is about $24 million over the salary cap this year. So they've got some moves to make. You kind of laugh at that, but the sad reality is every year there's about 4 teams that at the start of the offseason are looking at the roster and are in that exact spot where they're 18 to 30 over the cap somehow. The Saints famously for like 3 years in a row were just over the cap over and over and over and over again. They were just kind of like, I don't even understand how they did that. Because they signed Jimmy Graham to a big extension, and then they turned around and had no choice but to trade him like a year and a half later because he was the easy cap move because they were just so over the cap.
Like, this is going to be awesome to look at the bank account. This isn't awesome.
Yeah, basically, they had done this thing where for a little while, they were signing people, they were paying people, which is what you're supposed to do as a franchise. But it wasn't fitting in the economic plan for the team, like the structure of the team. And so they were perpetually over the cap every offseason and having to make these weird moves. One year they got out of trouble because like one of the offensive linemen retired. But like if he hadn't retired, his salary would have, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like they were always just weirdly against the cap. And so yeah, this offseason, the Green Bay Packers I think are $24 million over. But there's moves to make. There's 2 or 3 guys that wind up getting cut, and you kind of go from there. The Buccaneers were another possible destination. They have about 8 key free agents. But Bruce Arians has already publicly said that he hopes to bring back 5 or 6 of them.
So no.
And listen, some of these guys are due for huge paydays. But so Rob Gronkowski is a free agent. Antonio Brown's a free agent. Both of them probably come back at smaller salaries just to keep playing with Tom Brady. And Antonio Brown really doesn't have anywhere else to go. Nobody else wants him. There's no big payday coming for Antonio Brown. So he probably plays on like a couple $1 million. That's it. Rob Gronkowski could probably go anywhere, but also probably won't go anywhere. So that's a few $1 million. But then there's the 4 or 5 defensive starters that they need to make decisions on, and the kicker. And then I don't remember the guy's name, but he's the slot. He's the second or third receiver. More than likely, he's gone. The kicker is probably going to stay, and then you've got to make decisions on. There's like 2 of the defensive players who are young and in the middle of like their prime cycle, and their rookie deals are expiring. So it's 2 of the linebackers, and they're basically each going to get big deals. And it doesn't sound like they're going to give Tampa Bay any kind of discount. And then you got guys like Ndamukong and Suh, who, they're towards the end of their career. There's not a lot of they don't need to get out of their bed for anything less than a championship. Ultimately it comes down to, will Tampa Bay have $9 or $10 million to give him, and does he want to play for the $9 or $10 million? So it may work out that J.J. Watt gets to come into one of those spots that they're losing from one of those other guys, but more than likely, it sounds like if there's an offer from the Pittsburgh Steelers, it sounds like someone else would have to offer basically double the money and add years to it to be a better offer than the Steelers offer.
Yeah. Steelers are in kind of a weird position, though.
Yeah, they're not. They may not even be the best team in their division. But
my main deal is like, I think JJ wants to go somewhere where he can win because he's so talented that like.
And you don't think it's Pittsburgh?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know that it's Pittsburgh either. I don't think it's Pittsburgh. But
because I don't even think he'd even like. I don't like genuinely like. I don't even think he cares that much about getting like a huge payday. Like, I'm sure he'll probably like. My bet is that he'll go to Tampa.
So here's why it looks like Pittsburgh is the winner. They play the 3-4 defense where he had the most success, and he can play multiple spots on the defensive front. Plus, he gets to play with his brother.
Oh, that may be it. I was gonna say, I was like, where's his brother actually?
Yeah, in Pittsburgh. Plus,
okay, then that might be the selling factor then.
Plus, there's the mutual love thing. Big Ben is a respected guy in the league now. He's had an incredible transformation from alleged rapist to leader in the league.
Again, don't know how because
he's shown almost zero leadership, if you ask me.
Zero leadership. He's mousy as heck. Like, I don't like him at all.
I also don't think very highly of Ben Roethlisberger. Basically, ever since the alleged rape scenario.
I didn't even know that happened. I just didn't like him before, so now there's definitely a reason.
Yeah, he got himself in some hot water here, and I'd hate to end the show on this note, but I guess we'll be close to it. He basically, between between his second and third year, or third and fourth year, he got a couple different allegations at the same time. The first one, everyone gave benefit of the doubt. It really felt like a money grab. He was at a charity event at a local hotel, golf course, maybe even casino setup, and had himself an encounter with one of the staff who bragged about it all day, and then about a week later filed a lawsuit against him and her employer, saying that her employer sent her up there specifically to be assaulted, and then that he assaulted her. Everyone kind of blew that one off. Everyone gave him the benefit of the doubt. And then maybe it doesn't seem like it now, but it might have been as much as a year later. He had his bodyguards with him. He had them post up outside of the restroom at a bar where inside he had brought some girl, and allegedly it was against her will.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
It's not a good look. The details were sketchy, but it wasn't a good look. And it being the second time, no one gave him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
And now suddenly he's okay and such a leader in the community.
And, well, I mean, he's,
Isn't he always, like, talking trash about his teammates? He's not a very good, like...
No, he's a bit of a drama queen. I think at one point he was threatening retirement. He's a mess himself, for sure.
People earn respect in the weirdest of ways.
Sometimes it's just given to him because they've been there forever. And I think that's part of it with Big Ben, is he has been there forever.
That's true.
But, yeah, he's eating up a big piece of the cap, and he's not doing a lot for it. And guys like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown just bleed off of this team. And the offense was much worse this year because of it. Remember the first year, James Conner ran like a champion, and everyone was like, oh, obviously we don't need Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and then immediately didn't do that ever again.
Right, and that was the thing for me. It was how many years in a row will James Conner do it, because Le'Veon Bell did it 4 years in a row.
Yeah, and the answer was one. He did it 1 year in a row.
He did it 1 year in a row. So, yeah, it seems like the front runner for J.J. Watt is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Time will tell. And he's actually publicly said, guys, it's going to take me a little while to figure out where I wind up. So just kind of give me some space and give me some time. Because his Twitter feed was blowing up from, like, celebrity fans from every team asking him to come to their team. My dark horse pick, and then we'll kind of get out of here, Buffalo Bills.
Ew.
A Northeastern team, snowy, tough, defensive-minded. It's kind of the exact sort of place that just screams J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
Although Green Bay does too, but Green Bay just doesn't. I don't think they can get like $50 million under to get their other guys done and then give J.J. Watt $10 million.
Unfortunately, no.
Right. And with all that being said, we are going to jump out, man. So on behalf of little brother Nico and myself, thank you guys for listening. Same Nerd Thug time, same Nerd Thug channel. Be sure to wash your hands, stay safe, stay clean. Keep getting the vaccine, keep getting signed up. They're trying to do 100 million vaccines in 100 days. If you've had any sort of changes in employment and all that, they have reopened the healthcare website. They've opened a special window to sign up to get health insurance. So yeah, everybody kind of take care of yourself, stay safe, stay clean, wash your hands, help each other out. Let's get rid of this coronavirus so we can all go back to normal, and Nico and I can start going to clubs and hanging out and getting crazy.
Right, because that's what we do.
Obviously. All right, guys, this was Nerd Thug Sports. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow with Nerd Thug Radio.